G'day. Now that I have the extension fence, the next job is to build out the side table to take the trim router. The plan will be to build off this fence to create the fence for the router table. So I'll just go for a simple box design, which I'll eventually enclose and add some additional dust collection. The plan is for the fence to take this dust port, a lot of making it up as I go. So this JOBSITE saw, I'm building all around it so that I can pull this saw in and out, because it needs to be flipped over so you can clean the little slide rails that get bound up. It's pretty annoying, so I don't want all these accessories physically hanging off this saw. This box is actually going to be mounted to this side box that is the home for this table saw. The only real important measurement is to make sure you have enough depth inside your box with the router fully extended with your biggest battery, and you've got a little bit of room to move to take the battery on and off. These little keyholes are just so I've got some room to move when I bolt this thing up against a table saw. Any wood movement, craziness, I always can make sure that this can be adjusted so it remains flush with the top of the table saw. Couple of bonus pocket holes. Part of the goal of all this form ply improvements around my table saw is just to get back into using panels, come up with ways of doing things better, learning all those good things. This is not the greatest box I've ever built. Some of these panels, believe it or not, are not perfectly square. Cutting these rebates with the table saw, didn't really like that. As it made its way over the edge of the table saw, it wasn't super smooth. However, just using my big ass chisel here, I can just take off little bits to help me get this box seated exactly where I need it. So at the front, the box is not making it to be nice and flush. So I can spot where the problems are and just square them up, neaten them up, and that seems to be working pretty good. This one here is looking great. That one there is sitting back a millimetre. Now it is getting caught up somewhere. It's just about there. Just getting caught up somewhere at the back. Like I said, I probably wouldn't do it this way next time. It was worth it just to try things with the tools I have until I actually get this router thingy-majiggy made. Hello, dickhead. So after all that stuffing around making this fit beautifully, I forgot that it actually has to hang over so it meets up with the table saw. We'll chalk that one up as experience, and we'll make another one of these. Dickhead. I need to do a bit of chamferization on this form ply. It really does make it look heaps better, and I'm not loving how I made this box, so I'll give it a bit of love, make it look a bit prettier, so I'll feel better on the inside. There's one little box. This caused me a lot of drama. That's why I busted out the chamfers. They will help raise your level of I feel good about being a woodworker status in your own brain just a little bit. I made a box. It's not perfectly square. I'm going to run this thing through the table saw, referencing the bottom piece of flat form ply, which I know is all good, to get rid of that action. Alright, this thing's kicking my ass a little bit. This piece has a little bit of a bow in it. Although I feel better that this is nice and flush and square now. Now I can bring this down onto that and then be happy that this router table is nice and flat. Same screws, same settings, didn't pop through anywhere else, pops through the top. This thing's killing me. It's killing me. I know why these pocket holes are different. It's because I sawed off all of these sides, making it smaller on the table saw. So I'm going to make this for the third time because I don't want all these holes in the top, but also this piece of board still has a slight bow through the middle. Got some perspex. I'm going to set it up so it matches my Dewalt trim router. I found the center using a series of sophisticated lines and drawings. All I've got is this spade bit, which will give me the nice flat top for the screws that go into my particular router. Just a little bit of trial and error because this drill press has a really shit system of depth stop, so it's very primitive. It's two bolts. I have a piece of perspex on the trim router. Now I've got to get this thing in the box. To cut out the top of this to fit my new router plate, I'm going with the Uncle Knacker's technique, double-sided tape, to create the pattern I need to then use the pattern bit or flush trim to cut out that groove. Highly recommend you watch his video. I've just done a test cut, so I've set up the same form ply. I stack my acrylic on top, set the depth, remove the acrylic, and I cut the recess required to fit this perspex. I'm sure Uncle Knacker's put something in the middle to support the other side of the router. Fucking double-sided tape didn't fucking stick. Fucking double-sided tape shit. I don't have a jigsaw and I don't want to cut this out by hand. I'm going to use the same router bit. I'm going to offset the bearing with this piece of ply and then cut my way through the top if I can get the depth out of this thing, which should work nicely in theory. My little whoopsie-daisy, I think I'll turn that into a little finger lifty hole. Who's gonna know? End up going just one pass with the router, drilled out the corners enough that I could get that in, and it was just easy enough to saw through, file it clean, happy days. It's a fly's dick off. Installed. This is the biggest reason why this is not attached to this. Last quick video was about this little fence with the built-in infeed, but I can put a very rudimentary fence on here now, and I can put this thing to work, see what I like. Now that I have a router table, I should be able to do this area a little bit more professional. I've used this for the first time to make this. Just wanted to put a little chamfer on that hole. And look at that. Just a little bit of pressure pulled those screws back through the perspex. So shit design on my behalf. Because of the stock screws that come with this router, they are quite tall. I'm going to get some flat countersink, some flathead screws. Then I can just countersink these holes so the screw can sit below the perspex, but give me enough meat so that doesn't happen again. But basically I've got to remake that whole piece. Okay, see ya. Thanks very much for watching, and thanks very much for subscribing, helping me grow. Thank you. See you next time.